Hello and welcome back to another edition of the Shack Podcast. I'm Andrew along with Jake. Jake, how are you?
I'm doing well today. I'm doing well.
That's good. So as always, make sure to visit theodshack.com for entertainment and sports news. Today on the Shack Podcast, Jake and I are going to talk about youth in baseball with the MLB draft just around the corner. So we're just going to start off with the last 10 years of number one overall picks. So 2019 was Adley Rutschman to the Orioles. 2018, Casey Mize to the Tigers. 2017, Royce Lewis to the Twins. 2016 was Mickey Moniak to the Phillies. 2015, Dansby Swanson to the Diamondbacks, but was traded to Atlanta. 2014 was Brady Aiken to Houston. 2013 was Mark Appel to Houston. 2012 was Carlos Correa to Houston. And 2011 was Garrett Cole to the Pirates. And 2010 was Bryce Harper to the Nationals. So, Jake, do you have any original, ideas and thoughts about any of these guys before we, dig deep into their careers and how they've panned out so far?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the draft's a process, and we know that. MLB is all about development with the farm system, single A, double A, triple A. And a lot of these players like Rauschman and all the people drafted after like 2017 really haven't gotten their shot yet because of like the whole farm system. But if you look at people like Harper and Cole, you could tell that the talent's there because they're obviously two of the best players in the league right now.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree. Baseball is such a process to get to the big leagues. So let's do a deep dive right in. And the last three. So Adley Rutschman to the Orioles. Personally, I love this kid. He's supposed to be an absolute stud. He can throw. He can hit. He has that flair for the dramatic that you always love to see. He's a winner. He won the College World Series with Oklahoma State. And he had 408 with 9 homers and 83 RBIs, which is absolutely incredible.
Yeah, that does sound pretty incredible. I mean, I actually didn't watch Rutschman a lot, but I knew Oregon State was one of the most elite baseball programs in the country. I mean, the only one I know more is Vanderbilt, but Oregon State's a great program out there, and they produce great players.
Yeah, and we'll get to
Yeah.
Vanderbilt in just a few minutes when we talk about Dansby Swanson. So 2018, Casey Mize. I know that he's one of the top prospects in baseball. I personally don't know too much about him, but when I did a little dive into his career so far, he had an 0.35 ERA for the Lakeland Flying Tigers this past season in advanced A-ball. That's incredible. I mean, any ERA under 1 at any level is extremely, extremely, extremely good. You really love to see that from a guy like Mize, and I'm sure he'll break into the bigs very soon, possibly this year in Detroit.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, I'm reading right now that he already has a no-hitter down there. A .35 ERA is absolutely absurd. And like baseball's development, and then year after year after year, he's going to get more miles per hour on his pitch, and he could get it up into the maybe high 90s and get more like drop on his changeup maybe or slider and get that signature pitch that you see like DeGrom or Strasburg have, who Mize is compared to. He's compared to Strasburg because they were the only 2 players to go from undrafted out of high school to top overall pick in college. So it's all a process, and I think Mize is going to come through this year.
Absolutely. I think Casey Mize is poised to be a stud for the Tigers. And
And they need him.
2017, another AL Central player, Royce Lewis. He was California Baseball Player of the Year in 2017. Another guy I haven't heard too much of, to be honest, but he was the Fall League MVP this past year, so that's always a nice accomplishment.
Yeah.
The one thing I did see that kind of concerned me was he hit only 236 in 127 AA games, so that's not really promising. But the thing is, he just turns 21 today, so happy birthday, Royce. I'm so excited to see how you develop and get to play out there in Minnesota.
Yeah, and I'm going to compare Royce to somebody who's on the Twins already, Miguel Sano, because if you're batting 236 through 127 at-bats, that looks like something Sano would do. I mean, I didn't watch Lewis personally, but, like, you could tell he's a power hitter if he's batting 236 through 127 games, unless he's not playing so well. So, like, they're a really good hitting team, and it's a hitter's park out of Minnesota, so I could see him fitting in there.
Yeah, absolutely. And you talk about Miguel Sano, a guy who's had his ups and downs, but he has looked like a really good player at times, and he's also struggled at times. Hopefully, Lewis will be able to get more on that first part, the superstar sort of level for Minnesota. As I mean, they have so many great guys out there. Donaldson, Sano, as you said, so many incredible players. Barrios on the mound. that Minnesota team is really scary in the upcoming years.
Yeah, I feel like it's their division now. I feel like the Indians are on the down, and it's Minnesota's division now. They have good pitching too. So
Yeah,
yeah,
and their pitching, that was the one thing that kind of threw them off last year, but adding Rich Hill, adding Kenta Maeda, guys like
yeah,
that's how you get good. Those veteran pitchers who can come in, start games, give you 6 good innings, and that's how Minnesota is going to really have to get it done. And we know the power is there out in Minnesota.
yeah, exactly. And I think Jake Odorizzi is going to have a big year this year too. I think he's going to
Yeah,
have a huge year.
Jake Odorizzi, yeah, definitely poised for a big year. So the next 3, Mickey Moniak in 2016 to the Phillies. I actually remember when he was drafted. I don't remember if I watched the draft, but I just remember hearing a lot about him. He was drafted at just 18 years of age, back in 2016. He hit 252 in 2019 with the Reading Fighting Phils in Double-A, and he also had 13 triples. So that's a lot of speed for a guy like Moniak, and that's something you really love to see in baseball.
Yeah, I agree. I actually didn't watch a lot of Moniak, but the Phillies are a pretty fast team out there. Harper can run, Gene Segura can run. I mean, like I don't even know what position Moniak plays, to be honest, but like the Phillies need speed, and in that division, the NL East, which is possibly the scariest in baseball, it's a great pickup.
Yeah, I believe he
Yeah.
plays center field. He should be hopefully
All
breaking out
right.
into the bigs very, very soon. I know a lot of baseball has been this power, 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 but you love to see a guy like this who can hit a lot of triples, run really well. That's always fun to watch as well in baseball.
Yeah, and Moniak actually looks like a good replacement to Abdul Herrera, who's been out there for a while in center field for the Phillies. So that could be an easy transition.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So moving on, 2015, Dansby Swanson, a guy who I personally have a little issue with. He actually kind of snubbed me of an autograph when I went to Braves spring training a few years ago. Dansby, I remember that. I am still mad at you. We are not friends. He was drafted to the Diamondbacks and traded very, very early in his career with Ender Inciarte, pretty much just for Shelby Miller. So it looks like the Braves sort of got the better end of that deal. He's our
Yeah.
first full-time major leaguer on this list, a young shortstop on an extremely promising Braves roster that I had personally losing in the NLCS this year to the Dodgers. He hit 270 with 17 homers in the first half and just 204 with no homers in the second half. Missed some time with a heel injury. Jake, what do you see out of Dansby Swanson?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a Mets fan, so I get to see a lot of Swanson, way too much to my liking. I mean, that Braves team is so young. With Swanson's probably like the third best young player on that team behind Ronald Acuna and Ozzy Albies. But like Swanson, when he has it, he just brings it, and he goes on these streaks, and he's just so flashy with the ball, and he has pop. And he's a pretty good fielder too. And like I said, Vanderbilt's one of the best programs, and they're really good at making players. Swanson's a perfect example of this.
Absolutely, and we saw that little streak that he went on last year in the NLDS against the Cardinals. He hit 389 in 5 games, which you love to see for a young guy like Swanson.
Yeah, it's sad that the Braves pitching totally blew that game 5, letting up 10 innings in the first. 10 runs in the first inning.
Absolutely, I
Like,
remember just sitting there watching, and I was like, wow, this Braves team is really young. They're really good, and it's just the pitching that's not there right now. Hopefully, they can get it together.
yeah, agreed.
So 2014, Brady Aiken. This one's a little bit of a sad story. There's a couple of guys like this on the list. He went number 1 overall, but due to some contractual disputes and some elbow issues, he ended up enrolling in the IMG postgraduate program.
Yeah,
So in his first inning of his first start at IMG, he actually left the game. He had Tommy John surgery in 2015. So the next year, he got drafted by the Indians at 17 overall. And he struggled in the minors. He still hasn't ever seen major league play. And currently, he's stepped away from the game. He appeared in just 2 games in 2019 and none in 2018. And now
yeah.
he's been stepping away from baseball.
Yeah, there's nothing much I could really say about it. It's sad that he's stepping away from baseball, and it's sad that it didn't work out for the Astros. But, like, the Astros also got Carlos Correa in 2012, which we'll get to in, like, 2 minutes. That was a good pick. That sort of makes up for it.
I can't really say that I'm so upset that the Astros missed on this guy. I hate the Astros. They're
Yeah, I'm not a fan of the
cheating
Astros either.
players.
Yeah, I hope Brady Aiken's healthy, but, like, if it was any team but the Astros, I'd feel more bad.
Yeah, we wish all the best to Brady. And 2013, another upsetting draft story for Houston. So, karma.
Yeah. Yeah.
Pell was drafted in 2013 by Houston. He underwent an appendectomy in 2014, but was invited to spring training. He actually made a couple appearances for Houston during spring training, against, I think he pitched against a Mexican League team. Then he made the All-Star Futures game in 2015. That's very promising for a young guy. And then eventually was dealt to the Phillies for Ken Giles, who would become a World Series champion asterisk
Yeah.
with the Astros. And then in 2018, in February, Appel was designated for assignment, and he stepped away from baseball in February that year.
Yeah, not much I can say about that one.
Exactly. So now getting to 2012, I really don't want to talk about this guy, Carlos Correa. He broke into the bigs in 2015, immediately won AL Rookie of the Year in Houston. That was before he started cheating. 2017, he starts cheating, becomes a 2017 All-Star. He was a world champion, player of the month in May. He's been really great at home, especially for reasons that we know. He was a big part of that 2017 ALCS against the Yankees. That broke my heart, and now I know the Astros are cheating. So you know what? We'll get past that. Yankees are a much better team now. He's the shortstop of the two-time AL champs, Carlos Correa. The Astros really nailed this pick.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, he's so much better at home for reasons we know, but like on the film, you always see him hit it to the left field like so easily. I mean, he had a down season last year. I had him on my fantasy team, and he didn't perform like that elite shortstop. But like, you just never know with him, and he gets hurt a good amount too, and that sort of sucks. But I'd say he's a star, if not a superstar. But yeah.
Yeah, definitely a stud for Houston. He had some injury troubles, as we've seen, but when he's been healthy, he's been really just top-notch, absolutely fantastic for the Astros.
Yeah, agreed.
So next up, Garrett Cole in 2011 to the Pirates. Absolute stud, one of the best pitchers in baseball now for the Yankees. He was drafted 28th overall by New York in 2008, but elected to go play at UCLA with Trevor Bauer. Imagine facing Garrett Cole and then Trevor Bauer in college.
Yeah, that's a bit scary.
I hope Trevor Bauer comes to New York so that MLB hitters will have to face those two buddies.
Yeah, I mean, Garrett Cole is so good. I'm a Mets fan, and Jacob deGrom I think is better than Garrett Cole, but Garrett Cole, just like, he's a strikeout king, and he's just so good. It's hard to
absolutely. So Cole was promoted to the bigs in 2013. He struggled a little bit at times, but he really got it down. In 2018, he was traded to Houston right after the Astros won the World Series. That was probably the worst thing that could have happened for me as a diehard Yankee fan, because I thought we were up and coming, and then Houston just tosses Garrett Cole into a World Series championship team. That was just terrible for me to watch.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's terrible for Yankee fans to watch. Cole fit in well there, though. I mean, he was a number 2 pitcher there, and that's scary because on most teams he's the number 1. Like, Verlander had an amazing season that year. I'm pretty sure Cy Young. I might be wrong about that in 2018, but now Cole's on the Yankees, and the Yankees need pitching, and they're going to be really scary.
I'm forgetting who the Cy Young was in 2018. I don't think it was Verlander. It was Blake Snell. It was Blake Snell in 2018.
It was.
2019 though, it was Justin Verlander, and Garrett Cole went 20-5 with a 2.50 ERA and 26 strikeouts, and he finished second. It still blows my mind, but that just shows how much respect the baseball writers have for Justin Verlander and how elite he still is at his age.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and this is all about youth and draft picks, but Verlander's almost prehistoric, and he's still doing this. It's amazing.
He's still absolutely incredible. So last year, Garrett Cole actually became the first full-time starting pitcher to average at least 1.5 strikeouts per inning in MLB history.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
That blows my mind. I learned that today when I was researching Garrett Cole. That's incredible, to strike out almost 2 batters per inning. There's only 3 outs in an inning, and you're striking out pretty much half the guys. That's ridiculous.
That is ridiculous.
He won 17 or 18 straight starts, something absolutely absurd. He did struggle a little bit in the World Series, but, I mean, he received that big $324 million contract from New York, largest ever for a pitcher.
Yeah, and one more comment before we move on. I mean, baseball is all about pursuing your dream. That's what every player tries to do. Like, Cole was at a World Series game holding up the sign. I don't even know what it said. I'm sure, Andrew, you know what it said. But Garrett,
Yankee fan today, tomorrow, forever, I believe.
Exactly. And now he's the ace of the New York Yankees, which are probably the most valuable team in sports. And I don't even think that's an argument.
Oh, absolutely. I'm not going to argue with that, being a diehard Yankee fan. All
Yeah, I
right,
hate admitting it.
so moving on to 2010, Bryce Harper, one of the most controversial players in terms of just baseball talk. People question whether he's really a superstar, whether he's, just a pretty good player, just a really, really good player. I think he's an absolute stud. Broke into the bigs in 2012, won Rookie of the Year. He's always been side-to-side comparison with Mike Trout, who's always been better. Mike Trout there is no comparing anybody to Mike Trout, but he's been the
Yeah.
guy right next to Trout that kind of broke into the league together.
Mhm.
So Harper, a six-time All-Star, MVP in 2016. He also won the Home Run Derby in 2018. He struggled this year in Philly, but he's still an absolute superstar. There's really no questions about that. He did have a very nice year there, and even though they did not make the playoffs, and I know you being a Mets fan, you definitely don't want to see a Phillies team as well as the Braves, as well as the world champion Nationals, up and coming and
Yeah.
getting even better.
No, I don't want to see it. Like whenever I hate Bryce Harper just because of what he's done from the Nationals to the Phillies, just like tormenting the Mets year after year after year, game after game after game. But just when it comes off Harper's bat, he might have the most pop that I've ever seen. Just like I'm gonna highlight the walk-off grand slam he had against the Cubs the last year. You just don't see that with other players a lot. And he's very special, but like I just hope he doesn't keep it up because I think the Mets are a good team. I don't know.
He actually got booed that game. Everybody was so
He did.
upset, and he was like, you know what? Nah, I don't really care about your boos. I'm gonna go hit a walk-off grand slam, and you're all gonna love me.
Yeah.
So he signed a 13-year, $330 million contract in the offseason, which was a world record, until Mike Trout's 12-year, $430 million mega extension. I've never seen anything like that. That still blows my mind.
Whole nother
It's just
story.
insane.
Yeah,
That is a whole.
nobody could be compared to Mike Trout, but the fact that he's right next to him is crazy. Yeah.
Absolutely. So Bryce Harper famously said, I can't wait to bring a title back to DC in his Phillies introduction. Nice little laugh from
Yep.
Harper. We'll see if he's got 13 years to do it. We'll see if he can get that done.
Yeah. I mean, that division's a tough one. We'll see. We'll see.
Absolutely. So in 2019, he became the first Philly to have 100 RBI since Ryan Howard in 2011. But his team failed to make the playoffs. But bringing in Didi Gregorius and Zach Wheeler, as well as Joe Girardi, a world champion manager, should really help Philly in the near future.
Yeah, agreed.
All right, so those are the last few number one picks. I think these guys are really, really great players. There's some upsetting stories, but, that happens in every sport. There's always guys who don't live up to their expectations, whether it's through injuries or they're really just, not built to be that number one overall pick.
Yeah. There's always people that's not built to be that number one pick, and that's why you see people that get drafted in the late rounds become studs in any sport. I mean, the most infamous one, and I hate this guy more than any person in the world, is Tom Brady, 199th pick, and you're the best player to ever play, arguably. Like the number one pick's not always going to pan out, but the later players will develop, and then therefore it could level out unless your name's like the New York Jets. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's just one thing in baseball. The first pick, personally, and this might be a controversial statement, but I think being number one overall pick in baseball, it's really just a lot of clout. It's
I
not that
agree.
you might not turn out to be the best player in your draft, and the odds of you turning out to be the best player in your draft really, really haven't been that high. If you look at these redrafts that Bleacher Report has done, I don't know if the number one pick has gone number one in any of the ones that I've seen so far.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that sounds right. I haven't read a lot of them, but that does sound right. I mean, if you're not number one, it just has fuel to the fire. Every player looks at their draft board and sees who was ahead of them on every draft, and it just gives them fuel. You're gonna be better than for the rest of your career.
Right, and there's such high expectations from those top picks, much lower expectations from the picks down in the hundreds, the 200s. But those guys can definitely be some of the best players on championship teams and the best players we've seen in baseball.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, so moving on, a couple other guys who I looked at, former number one picks. So Steven Strasburg in 2009. Remember, he broke in with that 14 strikeout game. That was incredible to watch. He is a phenomenal pitcher, World Series MVP, signed a big extension this year with Washington.
Yeah, another person that torments the Mets every year. Strasburg just brings it every game, and he just has so much talent, and he got a ring, which is awesome for him. But,
Yeah, I know. I know you love to watch those Nationals win championships. That must feel great for you.
yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot of fun. I mean, the Mets had their one year where they made the World Series, and that was fun to watch. But I mean, winning it's a whole nother story.
Absolutely. So next up, David Price, 2007 in Tampa. Now he's with the Los Angeles Dodgers. He's had some up and down seasons, a little bit down year the last few years, but I personally think he's got a chance to bounce back. 3 potential Cy Young Award winners on that staff if you count Walker Buehler. 2 if you don't. Those guys have a really, really good chance to be World Series champions. That's who I had winning the World Series.
Yeah, they have a really good shot. David Price is a great pitcher. There's really nothing else that I could really say.
Yeah. Next up, Justin Upton. He was actually drafted as a shortstop to Arizona in 2004. He's really turned himself into a really nice player. Him and his brother BJ. I don't know if BJ was drafted the same year, but I know Justin is still in the big leagues. He's been a really nice outfielder now in Los Angeles. He's bounced around, played for the Diamondbacks, the Padres, I believe, the Tigers. He's really made a nice name for himself.
Yeah. I meant not BJ. Justin Upton is one of those players that always pops up at the most I don't want to say insignificant, inopportune times, and he's always there to make a clutch hit when you need it.
Absolutely. So another one, Joe Mauer in 2001. Joe Mauer in 2009 was the AL MVP. I still take offense to that because I think it should have been Jeter. But I remember the Yankees just kind of crushed Minnesota in the division series that year. So that sort of made up for it, and then obviously went on to win the World Series. Joe Mauer had a really, really nice career. He was a fantastic player, great catcher for Minnesota.
Yeah, the Twins are set to retire his number next season, or whatever next season is, because he was so good. And that's an example of a number 1 pick that really pans out.
Absolutely, and so well deserved. Such a loved guy. I mean, I can't think of anything bad to say about Joe Mauer at all.
Exactly. Yeah,
All
neither
right,
can I.
the final one on my list, I just went back to 2000. I put Adrian Gonzalez for the Florida Marlins back in 2000 exactly. He was a really nice player, played in San Diego, played in LA, played in Boston. He was a really nice player. When he played, some injury troubles that kind of ended his career, but he was really, really, really dangerous when he was healthy all the time.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, Agon just brought so much power. I mean, he was on the Mets for a season, but watching him on the Red Sox and the Dodgers when he really was in his prime, you got scared whenever he went up to the plate because you never knew what he was going to do.
Exactly. So with that being said, I was wondering, do you have any other, maybe not number 1 overall picks, maybe number 1 overall picks who have really struck your eye, Jake, and that you think are absolute stars now or could be stars in a couple of years?
Yeah, I mean, oh gosh, Josh Hamilton in 1999. Yeah, 1999. Josh Hamilton. I mean, he was really good in his prime. He had so much pop on the ball. He was pretty quick. He had a career WAR of 28.3. I brought it every game, and he's one of those players that towards the end of his career it didn't pan out, but when he was in his prime, you always feared playing him.
Yeah, and Hamilton, a guy who went from such a sad story to such a great story with his comeback, winning the home run, or he didn't win the home run derby, but had that incredible round in, I believe, 2007 when it was at Yankee Stadium.
Yep.
It might have been 2008. I remember my dad was there. He told me stories about Hamilton would literally hit every ball 500 feet. And then that turned into a very, very sad story in the past few years with his daughter and things like that. So,
Yeah.
But yeah, he's a really nice player. A-Rod is up there. He was the number 1 pick, 93, I think.
That sounds right.
He was incredible for his career with Seattle, Texas, the Yankees, besides the steroid allegations and announcements and stuff like that.
Yeah, and then one more to mention, 1987, Ken Griffey Jr. We know what that is like.
Oh, absolute legend. One of the best players of his generation, without a doubt.
Easily.
Moving on, I just wrote down some other young stars that you can go ahead and start us off. Who do you think are the really, really good young stars who have a chance to get even better moving forward?
Yeah, so these are young stars under 26. I made a team of them, and you did too. So I'll just read it off. So at catcher, Francisco Mejia. So he was drafted by the Indians in 2017, or he made his MLB debut for the Indians in 2017. Part of my thing. But now he's in San Diego, and San Diego doesn't really have a lot of stability at the catcher position, and they don't have a lot of depth up there. So I think that he could have a pretty big year this year. He was supposed to prove himself in spring training, but of course, spring training didn't happen for the full part. But I think Mejia is very talented. First base, I have Pete Alonso, rookie home run record, New York Met. I mean, he brought it to every game this year. He actually was okay fielding, which surprised me for such a guy who was able to lay out and get some balls, but he's a power hitter like no other. At second base, I have Ketel Marte. Ketel Marte really burst on the scene this year. I mean, north of 30 home runs, a batting average of, I don't even know his batting average, but I know it's pretty good. And he's bringing Arizona to become a contender soon. And then shortstop, I'm sure you could agree with me, I have Gleyber Torres. Gleyber's very good. I'm just not going to really go into that because I hate talking about the Yankees because we're the little brother. Third base, I have Alex Bregman. Bregman's 26, and Bregman's a star MVP candidate. I'm not going to go much into that. He is Jewish. That is true. And then I think the outfield is the best part about this young team because going from left to right field, I have Juan Soto, Ronald Acuna Jr., and Cody Bellinger. And as much as I hate Soto and Acuna because they always play against the Mets and they always torment us, they have so much pop, and they're so quick, and they're so hard to stop, and you need the perfect pitch in order to strike them out or get it by them. And same with Bellinger. Bellinger, did he win MVP last year? He won MVP last year, right?
Yes, he did.
Yes. I mean, that speaks for himself, and he is only – let me pull that up. I think like 24 or 23.
I think he's 24.
Yeah, he is 24. So that outfield is absurd. And then the three pitchers I have are Jack Flaherty, who really burst on the scene at the end of the year, posting like a 1.04 ERA in the second half of the season. Walker Buehler, who is a possible Cy Young candidate on a Dodgers team where he could learn from pitchers like David Price and Clayton Kershaw and really get that stuff. And Shane Bieber, who was a strikeout king last year. So, yeah, those are my young stars.
Yeah, so my team, I kept it under 25. You kept it under 26. So behind the plate, I had Adley Rutschman. I think he's the best young catcher. He's poised to be an absolute superstar. I went a little bit of a different route. I had Bellinger at first. You'll see my outfield. Why? I mean, we don't have to even get into Bellinger. He's just absolutely a beast. He's incredible, MVP, and definitely many more MVPs to come. Second base, Ozzie Albies. The kid is a star out in Atlanta. He got that contract. I think it was $70 million for 7 years. Absolute steal by the Braves. Absolute steal by the Braves. He definitely could have gotten more money, but hey, no issues there. $10 million a year is absolutely incredible for anybody. Shortstop, my boy Gleyber Torres, 38 home runs at 22 years old, 23 years old. So young, so powerful. I think he's got possible Jeter-esque qualities. He was so good in the postseason for the Yankees, and you really can't say much more about that. At third base, I have Yoan Moncada. I think this kid out in Chicago is going to be absolutely incredible. Traded there in the Chris Sale trade. I mean, he's got power. He can hit for contact. He can run a little bit. Plays very good defense. He's really, considered a five-tool player at that. Left to right, Soto and Acuna, I agree with you on both. And then in right, I went with Austin Meadows. Kid, I like Austin Meadows a lot more than maybe people do. Came over in the trade for Chris Archer. It pretty much ended up being Glasnow and Meadows for 33 starts of Chris Archer, as he's not going to pitch this year if there is a season. I think Meadows can hit for power. He can run. He can play right field. He can play first base. He can DH if you need him to. I think he's a really good pitcher. Good right fielder for Tampa Bay, and he's definitely going to torment the Yankees this year and in the near future, which is really not that exciting for me.
Okay.
And then my three pitchers, I had the exact same three: Flaherty, Bieber, and Buehler. Bieber and Buehler I actually had as my two Cy Young Award winners. If you look at my MLB predictions, there's a couple parts of that. Those are my two Cy Young winners in the AL and the NL. Two guys who can throw the ball as well as anybody, really. And they're only getting better. And I think they're both the aces of their staff. Same thing with Flaherty.
Yeah, agreed. Definitely agree with that.
All right, so starting to wrap it up a little bit, just a couple of other young stars. Obviously, we got Bellinger, Glaber, Aaron Judge in New York, still so young, so powerful. He's going to get that big contract very soon from the Yankees. Another guy, so out in Chicago, Moncada. We got Eloy Jimenez, the great left fielder for the White Sox, and the shortstop who won the batting title, Tim Anderson, absolute flair for the dramatic. Those are three guys who are going to be really dangerous for a Chicago team that's really going to start turning some heads this year. I had them in the second wild card spot, making the playoffs for the first time in 12 years. That team's going to be really dangerous in the near future.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. Chicago might become the best team in Chicago because it doesn't look like the Cubs are going to be good for the next couple of years. It looks like the Cardinals division. But if you're going to mention Aaron Judge, who is 28, I'm just going to mention Mookie Betts, who's 27, and Mike Trout, who's 28 as well, and Michael Conforto, who's 27. And those are just young players, and you see for the next 5-10 years, they're going to be the faces of the league.
Yeah, absolutely. Trout's still so young. Betts is fantastic outfielder for the Dodgers. I'm so glad he's out of the division. The next team of guys who I put together was Acuna and Albies and Mike Soroka. He's a young pitcher out in Atlanta. Yeah. He's supposed to be really good as well, under 25. I think that's going to be a key. If he can really, develop into that ace that can go out there and get you, 17, 18 wins a season, there is no stopping that Atlanta team in, maybe 1 or 2 years. Once the Dodgers sort of eke past their primes, that Atlanta team is looking like the NL is going to be theirs for the next, 6, 7, 8 years.
Yeah, especially in that division when you have to go up against Max Scherzer, Steven Strasburg, Jacob deGrom, and Noah Syndergaard, and more than any other team, though they're going to be low-scoring games, and you need Soroka to have 1 earned run a game or 2 earned runs a game in order to contend and make or break a playoff run.
Yeah, absolutely. He looks like a really, really good young pitcher for the Braves. 2 more guys who really caught my eye. Vladimir Guerrero Jr. and Bo Bichette in Toronto. 2 guys who I have seen a lot of recently. They play the Yankees all the time. I think those 2 guys are really good. They also have Kevin Biggio at second. So that's a really nice infield for the Toronto Blue Jays. I definitely see them making some playoff appearances in the next couple of years.
Yeah, agreed. I love Vladdy. Just so much power in Toronto news. And Bichette and Biggio, I didn't watch as much, but they're young and baseball's all about development. And when you're in a division with the Yankees, you could take your time and then burst onto the scene 1 year and shock them.
Absolutely. Yeah. And Vladimir Guerrero, just such a sweet swing to watch. You could see in the home run derby. It's just so perfect the way he swings the bat. One of the sweetest swings in all of baseball, in my opinion.
Agreed.
Yeah, and then rounding out my list, obviously we talked about Jack Flaherty, Pete Alonso, very powerful first baseman. The defense is the one thing that I worry about, and not exactly a lot of speed, but hey, if you're hitting 50 home runs, no one really needs to run very fast. You can sort of jog your way around the bases. Another guy in San Diego, another exciting young infielder, Fernando Tatis. A couple days ago was the anniversary of the James Shields for Fernando Tatis trade. I think the White Sox made a great move on that one.
I agree. Great move.
Great move for Chicago. They got James Shields, who pretty sure he didn't have an ERA under 4 in any of these years there.
Yeah, I don't think he did either.
And then last but not least, World Series hero Juan Soto. Just so much fun to watch. Absolute flair for the dramatic. Really something you love to see. And he's already won a title at such a young age. He couldn't even, drink the champagne afterwards.
Yeah. Juan Soto is a great player. I mean, so much pop on that ball and so much power. It's hard to contend with him.
Yeah, and he's just a fun guy to watch overall. So you really like to see guys like that who you don't really root against them. They haven't done anything wrong. They're just good young players who they have fun. He knows how to have fun out there.
Yeah, you hate when you play against them, but when you're not playing against them, he's so much fun to watch.
Absolutely. So another few guys who I'm looking at right now. Chris Paddock, the hard-throwing right-hander in San Diego, I think he was really good early in 2019. Started to struggle a little bit, but he's got a hard fastball, good a couple of off-speed pitches. I think he's going to be really dangerous out there in San Diego.
Yeah, agreed.
And I mean, those are really some of the best, young guys who I've had a chance to watch, take a look at. These guys really excite me. They're all really just absolute studs at this point. They're young, high-level players who really get baseball, and they have fun out there. So there's so much young talent in baseball right now. MLB fans and the league itself should be so excited for the near future with all of this talent.
Yeah, it's going to be a good decade or two.
Yeah, absolutely. I can't wait to watch these guys who make it to the top very, very soon.
Yeah, and whenever it comes back, it's going to be so exciting.
Oh, absolutely. I can't wait to watch these guys. So that pretty much wraps it up. Make sure to visit theodshack.com for more exciting content on both the world of entertainment and sports. For us, I'm Andrew. Wow. I'm Andrew. That is Jake. And have a good one, guys. Thank you for listening.